Tamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Utirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttame Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today is a very auspicious day. Today is the appearance day of Advaita Acharya. So I would like to start just talking a few words about glorifying Advaita Acharya. So Advaita Acharya is the combination of Mahavishnu and Sadasiva, who resides in Goloka. He is so merciful, similar to the mood of Lord Shiva, who drank the poison. Advaita Acharya, who like being so compassionate to the people in Kali Yuga who are really affected by the poison. So he started worshipping Saligram Shila with Ganges water and Tulsi leaves to bring to invoke the advent of Lord Krishna as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that it is only because of the calling of Advaita Acharya that he has descended in this world to distribute the remedy for that poison, which is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So with that mood, let us beg for a drop of mercy from Advaita Acharya on this auspicious day to perform devotional service. So today we are going to read from verse 1.12.3, which is the birth of Parikshit Maharaj. Tat idam shrotam ichamo gatitum yadi manyase bruhina shradadhananam yasya jnanam ado chukaha. Tat idam shrotam ichamo gatitum yadi manyase bruhina shradadhananam yasya jnanam adachukaha. Word to word meaning: that all, idam this, shrotum to hear, ichamo all willing, gaditum to narrate, yadi if, manyase you think, bruhi please speak, naha we, shradadhananam who are very much respectful, yasya whose, jnanam transcendental knowledge, adat delivered, shukaha Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Translation: we all respectfully want to hear about him, Maharaj Parikshit, to whom Sukadeva Goswami imparted transcendental knowledge. Please speak on this matter. Purport by His Divine Grace, Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sukadeva Goswami imparted transcendental knowledge to Maharaj Parikshit during the remaining 7 days of his life. And Maharaj Parikshit heard him properly, just like an ardent student. The effect of such a bona fide hearing and chanting of Srimad Bhagavatam was equally shared by both the hearer and the chanter. Both of them were benefited. Out of 9 different transcendental means of devotional service the Lord prescribed in the Bhagavatam, either all of them or some of them or even one of them are equally beneficial if properly discharged. Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami were serious performers of the first 2 important items, namely the process of understanding. Yes, Prabhu. Can you hear me? Okay. Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami were serious performers of the first 2 important items, namely the process of chanting and process of hearing. and therefore both of them were successful in their laudable attempt. Transcendental realization is attained by such serious hearing and chanting and not otherwise. There is a type of spiritual master and disciple much advertised in this age of a Kali. It is said that the master injects spiritual force into the disciple by an electrical current generated by the master, and the disciple begins to feel the shock. He becomes unconscious, and the master weeps for his exhausting his store of so-called spiritual assets. Such bogus advertisement is going on in this age, and the poor common man is becoming the victim of such advertisement. We do not find such folk tales in dealings of Sukadeva Goswami and his great disciple Maharaj Parikshit. The sage recited Srimad Bhagavatam in devotion, and the great king heard him properly. The king did not feel any shock of electric current from the master, nor did he become unconscious while receiving the knowledge from the master. One should not therefore become a victim of these unauthorized advertisements made by some bogus representative of Vedic knowledge. The sages of Naimisharanya were very respectful in hearing about Maharaj Parikshit because of his receiving knowledge from Shukadeva Goswami by means of ardent hearing. Ardent hearing from the bona fide master is the only way to receive transcendental knowledge, and there is no need for medical performance or occult mysticism for miraculous effects. The process is simple, but only sincere party can achieve the desired result. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Ghananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Tadati Swapatantikam Vanchakalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So I seek the blessings of all assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, so that I can speak something meaningful to please our deities, Shri Nitai Gaur Chandra. So the context here is the sages headed by Saunaka Rishi is asking some questions to Sutta Goswami about Maharaj Parikshit. So they know who is Maharaj Parikshit, but they don't know the comprehensive information. They don't know the entire information about what has happened to Maharaj Parikshit and the details. The questions that were raised by the sages were how he was being saved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the deadly weapon Brahmastra. So the deadly weapon Brahmastra is a product of Brahmaloka. It is not from the material world. In other words, it is not being made by the material elements like earth, water, air, fire, and ether. It is more beyond it. And the questions that were raised by the sages were so meaningful and genuine, like how Maharaj Parikshit, he just had 7 days of a time before his death, and how he dealt, how he prepared. So in the case of Maharaj Parikshit, the death time is pre-made. Like he knows, like in 7 days he's going to die. So in our case, we don't know when the death is coming. Like it could be next month, it could be a few years, or it could be even the next moment. The question is, like, how prepared are we to face death if the death is coming at the next moment? So in the situation of Maharaj Parikshit, who is preparing for his death, he is not doing some other activities. Like, if somebody knows that I'm going to die, there are a list of activities that comes to his own mind, and that comes to his relatives or his friends' mind, who will inject, and we will become accustomed to that, and we start preparing so many activities. But the great sage Maharaj Parikshit, the great king, who is preparing for his death by paying rapt attention to the transcendental knowledge transfer. So many of us who are working in this country are very familiar with the concept of knowledge transfer. So the knowledge transfer that we receive when we are joining a new company or when we are leaving an existing company is much different than the knowledge transfer that is being discussed here. This is transcendental knowledge transfer. In other words, it's called as apureshaya, meaning that they are different from the words spoken from the mundane people who are all subjected with 4 defects. So this is the knowledge transfer. So when this knowledge transfer is happening, the king Maharaj Parishit is paying greater attention, the rapt attention. So what is it this rapt attention means? So the rapt attention is providing undivided attention to the person who is delivering the transcendental knowledge. So in terms of cognitive psychology, what is undivided attention? Undivided attention is like you are giving an attention to a particular subject without receiving any input from your senses. So you are not getting distracted, you are not multitasking, you are not doing any of this. So that is the undivided attention. Sometimes even you are in doing some work, like we will hear so many things, we will process some other things. So that is quite natural. But especially when we are hearing from someone in the Bhagavatam class, the rapt attention is the one which is going to deliver us from our sufferings. So let's assume when we are having a severe problem, like and you have someone, a subject matter expert, who is sitting next just in front of you and giving a solution to solve that problem, how much focus you will paying to that person to get the remedy, and try to adjust in your life. So, or in other case, like if the person who is giving the class, let's assume Durvasa Maharishi is giving a class, knowing the nature of Durvasa Maharishi, how lenient you will be in the class. Like we'll never try to attempt anything on those aspects. So the paying that attention is very important when you are hearing the transcendental knowledge. So how to pay that attention when we are receiving that knowledge, and how to get that spontaneous mood to that hearing. So it is only by the gratitude. So the gratitude is someone who has dedicated his whole life to bring me up from the clutches of Maya, from the sufferings from this material world. Without that gratitude, let's see, like we have so many sannyasis who are coming here and preaching and giving the classes, like both in the morning, afternoon, and in the evening times, without any personal benefit or without any expectations from us. The only thing what they are expecting is a faith, or that with that faith we can progress. So the devotional process starts with a preliminary faith. So it is only that their expectation is a preliminary faith, and we take it from that. From our side, when we provide that gratitude to the speaker who is delivering this message, who is bringing us, from our 4 defects and from our subject to, the conditions of this material life, especially in Kali Yuga, the sufferings, and who is delivering us. So that gratitude is the one which is going to help us to provide the rapt attention in hearing. Otherwise, the tendency of the mind is to go here and there, and there's no way that we can control our mind and be attentive. And again, Srila Prabhupada is talking in this purport about some bogus guru who are transmitting, or who are doing some sort of electrical vibration from one person to other. So let's talk about who is a bogus guru and who is a genuine guru. So usually people in general take shelter of some guru when there is some severe problem they are facing. So the shelter goes to many sources. And one such source is people going towards astrology, getting some stones, or some babas, like who claims that I am everything that you already missed. So that is something very special in the internet. These days you can see so many people, like if you go and approach, or if they are being approached, like they see the weakness of our side, and then they try to say that you haven't missed anything, it's all in me, you take shelter of me. So those sort of people are very, very popular in these days, and it is quite common. So who is a genuine guru? A genuine guru is one who says, do not worship me. worship the God. So that is a genuine guru. So he walks, he lives everything in according to the spiritual authorities. So let's take an example of a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a Krishna himself, but he closed his ears when he was glorified as a Krishna. He said, like, stop calling me as a Krishna. So like that is the genuineness between a real guru and the fake guru. Like the fake guru will say that I am the God, I am Narayana, I am this, I am that. So that is the representation of fake guru. You can easily identify. And if you we can also say that if you are Narayana, try to if you are Krishna, can you please show your universal form, or can you please lift Govardhan moment? Forget about government. Can you please lift a Govardhan Shila or a small rock with your little finger? That's not possible. But we don't really want to go and venture with this person. But I'm saying that these are the people who are trying to do that. But with some siddhis, like they bring some ashes, or they vomit some lingas, and all those gimmicks are happening. But that is not the real purpose of it. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Anusmara, which means remember me while you are working. So, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says like Kirtanya Sadahari, always chant the holy name of a Krishna. So, the question is, so how to remember and always chant Krishna? And we know that from the literatures and from the scriptures, the holy name is not different from Krishna. So that is a greater advantage that we have in this Kali Yuga, where the Kali Yuga is totally degraded and there is nothing much. But when we continuously chant the holy name, we are in constant association with Krishna. So that is being granted. And Bhadrachala Ramadasa, who was a great devotee of Rama. So this person is like 100 years before Saint Tyagaraja. Like he was not a contemporary of Tyagaraja, but he was 100 years before. So he sang, O Rama ni nama yanta ruchira. Yanta ruchira Rama emi ruchira. So the name of Lord Rama, what is the taste of that name? So he is glorifying on the taste of the name. Like the name is, so the name and the person are one and the same. So the name is more merciful than the person. So that is why we are taking advantage of chanting the holy name, which is the Kali Yuga Dharma of this age. And I read a snippet from I don't know. So that's again the name of the literature. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the chanting of the holy name is beneficial in all Yuga Dharmas. So especially in Kali Yuga, it is more favorable, and it is the direct association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the name, holy name, is so merciful, and the paraphernalia of the holy name, or paraphernalia of a Krishna, is more merciful than Krishna himself. So let's say, what are all the paraphernalia of a Krishna? So umbrella. So if you see Krishna's umbrella, especially Govardhan is Krishna's umbrella. Like it has given 7 days of non-stop association to the Brajavasis, non-stop 7 days in the Govardhan Leela. And when speaking about umbrella, my thoughts goes towards the umbrella which usually comes from Tirupati, in those days during childhood, I used to remember seeing the Utsavam of the deities coming, and with a very big umbrella. That umbrella is the visibility that gives that, okay, the deities are almost approaching our streets. So that is the thing that comes, especially for the umbrella, which is giving that sort of a mercy. And the second thing is shoes. The shoes of the Lord, like the shoes of Rama, are so merciful. Like the shoes ruled like the kingdom of Ayodhya for many years in the absence of Rama. And Swami Vedanta Desika has sung about Paduka Sahasram, glorifying the shoes of the Lord Ranganatha. So Once upon a time, when Swami Desikan was living in Sri Rangam, he was given an open challenge that by some Sri Vaishnava poet, like whoever composes more than a thousand poems over a night will be considered as a Mahakavi. Swami Desikan was not, Vedanta Desikan was not interested in getting the title of Mahakavi, but he took the challenge as an instruction of a Lord Ranganatha and composed 108 verses, 1008 verses, it's 1000, Shahasram, 1008 verses on the sandals of Lord Ranganatha. So I had an opportunity to refer one of the slokas, and one thing that was very inspiring, and that was something which was highlighted. So it says like, "Oh sandals, you had brought Narayana from Vaikunta, and from Vaikunta it went to Satyaloka where Lord Brahma resides, and from Satyaloka you brought you brought Narayana to the Raghus of Ayodhya, and from there Ayodhya you brought us to you brought the Supreme Lord to Sri Rangam. It is where the Lord resides constantly without going anywhere. So what a merciful sandals you are." So if you ever have a chance to go to Sri Rangam, which is called as a Bhuloka Vaikuntham, please do visit seeing those sandals. It will be behind the temples, like you can see the previous year sandals. Every year they change the sandals, and it has been designed and developed by a particular family from lineage. So those sandals are very, very merciful. And the conch is one of the paraphernalia that we heard many times, that it is that conch. By the touch of the conch, Dhruva Maharaj was delivered when he was doing the austerity in praying for Lord Vishnu. So overall, the paraphernalia of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so merciful, and it gives us the remembrance when we see those paraphernalia. So we had even heard from Srila Prabhupada, one of his disciples says like, "Srila Prabhupada, I remember seeing your glasses." So that is also such a great thing of a remembrance that brings you immediately to the connection of these classes belong to Srila Prabhupada, Krishna, our spiritual master. So that is all divine. That is fantastic to remember. So that sort of a remembrance happening through this paraphernalia. While speaking, one thing that came to my mind earlier is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, some kid in those days was dressed like a Krishna, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he saw that kid and said like, "Oh, you are so, I'm so grateful to you because you are bringing the remembrance of Krishna." Somebody with just a peacock feather and a flute. Most of these days we have the fancy dress competition, and everywhere you can see Krishna in schools and those activities. So that's sort of a remembrance that gives a genuine mood of remembering Krishna and accepting him, and thinking of that. So Srila Prabhupada says that out of the 9 process of devotional services, Smaranam, which is hearing, is the easiest one to remember Krishna. So we had heard that a hearing is such a very important component in the perception through senses. So hearing is the first and the last item to shut down. So the first to develop during the embryo from the senses, and the last one to shut down. So how to absorb the mind and intelligence in thought of Krishna all the time? We heard that such thought will transfer us towards the spiritual kingdom. So if the mind is always engaged in the service of Krishna, the senses is automatically engaged. So there is always a connection between the mind and the senses. The mind is a triggering factor, and if the mind is engaged in the service and there is no engagement for the senses, the senses are subdued. So this is the art and the science, and also a secret that is being revealed in the Bhagavad Gita. So how is it possible to control the mind and the senses all the time, especially with so many things that are inducing in this world. There are a lot of opportunities to get distracted. So the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, it is abhyasa yoga yutena chetasa gamya nanya gamina. So it is abhyasa, it is only by practice. So the practice of meditation with the mind and intelligence dedicated to Krishna, we can be sure that to reach out to Krishna. It is a severe practice, and we are constantly trying to achieve that in the mixed state of our consciousness. So when speaking about a remembrance that will be given by Krishna at the time of death, last week Jyotirmaya's grandmother, she left her body. She was 92 and a spiritual, a very devoted Sri Vaishnava lady. And her practice is like every day she get up 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, and she never enters the kitchen without taking a bath, and she offers milk. I remember I used to heard from Jyotirmaya said that she used to have her morning music classes and all those things very early in the morning, but she ensures that milk will be given only when it is offered to the deities, and she has that practice. And this is, and very devoted, she chant regular slokas and all those things, as per her practice in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. And at the time of her death, like, she suffered for a few hours, and it was an intense suffering. And she chanted the Acharya Taniyan, which is equivalent to our Mangalacharana prayers. So she called her spiritual masters and the disciplic succession above, and finally she said, "Oh Narayana, don't you see the suffering that I am encountering? Can you not take me away?" And she fade out her consciousness, and that's how she left her body. So it is not that these Krishna will give the remembrance and these things. It's possible. It is possible. And it is possible, and by the constant practice, how much we dedicate to Krishna, we will surely get the reciprocation from Krishna. Externally, we may have a lot of sufferings, but internally there is possibilities that Krishna's mercy is there, and we can think and remember Krishna at the time of death. So I would like to conclude here. Thank you for providing this opportunity. And if there are some corrections or comments, please feel free to correct me. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the very nice class, Prabhu. It is very good hearing about the paraphernalia of the Lord. And I just remembered seeing Srila Prabhupada's sandals, shoes, and shawl kept in Gita Nagari. It was very touching. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. This is Bhakti Priya Devidasi.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was a wonderful class. The saintly woman passing away is the past time you narrated was very touching to me. It's very hard to remember at that time. Just when we get cold, we can't, sometimes it's so hard with the sinus pain, and chanting 16 rounds will be so hard on that day.
That is
true. At the time of death, she remembered the slokas. It's amazing how Krishna, gives that remembrance, and how he will take us back. Once all we have to do is have faith and just do what we have to do.
That is true, Mataji. Yeah. So I mean, like, these are these are orchestration from Krishna's, like, by seeing that we take impetus and try to be sincere you know, especially when my chanting is so mechanical, like at least, you know, 1 or 2 rounds, I try to pay more attention. You know, that is a great thing to witnessing and hear from this, especially in this age. So Lingaraj Prabhu, if there is not much questions, probably we can end this call.
Okay, Prabhu.
Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripa sindhu bhavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo